Okay, 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 okay. Oh, I like that beat, but by season two, we're gonna really spice it up. I just need for y'all to understand that. Okay, so welcome. And this is week two of the new year for G Spot. And this segment, I told you if you have not watched the pilot, it's very, very important that you watch the pre pilot and the pilot, which prepares you for what you're going to have. And that is every week there's something new and something different. There's a different segment every week. There's not the same theme, there's not the same category, same subject. There's going to be some new content every week. And this week, I was supposed to go live yesterday, and I did not. Okay. So I'm here this morning because I had a MOI, which is a moment of inspiration when I rose this morning. And I was watching something on YouTube, as a matter of fact, and it got my wheels to turning about this segment. And I was hesitant about going live yesterday because I really didn't know how to package this, because this is something that I've honed my craft in, so to speak. The next chapter of my life is going to be somewhat of a passion for me. So I want this to be as such. I want it to be a labor of passion. I want it to be fun. I want it to be stimulating. I want it to be inspiring and aspiring all in one package. And I didn't know how to do that. And when I was struggling yesterday before I went on and before I made the decision to delay this, it's not denied, but it was delayed. I said, I don't know how I'm going to package this. And much like with making the decision to switch over platforms to reach a broader audience, I didn't know how to do this. So here I go. Um, and I think I mentioned this in the pilot and or the pre-pilot, that this was going to be a challenge. I think I did mention that. But if I did not mention it, guess what? Had a brain fart. I'm mentioning it now. And it's because it's so sensitive. It's a subject that's so sensitive. And it affects not just one particular genre, one particular culture, one particular race, one particular gender, more so than the next. It's a broad spectrum of the human race that's affected. It just so happens that I happen to be a particular gender, I happen to be a particular race, and I happen to be of a particular culture that I will present it in a way that reaches that particular subgroup. And I'm not apologizing for that. It's just that I am familiar with the struggles of said race, gender, or human subgroup because I am from that group. Am I jaded or biased? I don't know. I just know that I'm coming from a particular place because I know the rules. So let's get started. Much like a doctor goes to school and he learns his craft and he is given the tools to do his job, one of the genesis or the hinge knots of his profession is much like when people go to church, they have the Bible, right, to reference. And those who study other different religions, such as Islam has the Quran, the Jewish have the Torah, like doctors who go to work and who hone their craft and who delve into the studies of whatever their chosen profession is, they are given a physician's desk reference. That is their grail. Well, I chose some years ago, back in 2014, to go to school for what I went to school for. And I am given my grail, so to speak, and it is called this. It's called the DSM 5. This is the current this is the current version we're working out of. I try to keep myself current and relevant because it's always revising. Why is it always revising? Because what is happening with what we're doing and what we're laboring under is theory, and theory is always changing. Why is that so? Because theory is that. Theory is a study, it's not a fact. It's something that we're learning as we go along. And we have many people that came before me, many contributors to this craft that practice, have you, that have laid their life down and delved into studying the human psyche, right? Mental, right? Emotional and behavioral, right? And so that is why this came about some years ago. I want to say the 60s. And now we're on our fifth edition. So some of the names you're going to hear me mention along the way are Freud, right? Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung. Those are some names you're going to hear me pepper around as I go along. There'll be some other ones. I'm thinking of this guy right now. He gave us the Geneagram. But we're going to talk about all of these things. But the way, it's not what I'm presenting, right? And it's how I'm presenting it. I remember one time I was looking at an episode of The Cosby Show, and on The Cosby Show, I want to say it was Denise or one of the young ladies, one of the daughters of the house, brought home her fiance. And those of you who watch The Cosby Show, you know what episode I'm talking about. And she brought home her fiance, and the way she brought him home was like, I left the house single. I'm coming back home with a fiance. Voila. Well, look who's coming to dinner. Like nobody knew about him. It was no real, you know, um, presentation, nothing leading up to it. It wasn't like the beginning of the story, the middle of the story was the end or the end. Like I'm getting engaged or I am engaged or I am married. It was the beginning of the story, left the house this morning, I'm single, and then 8 hours later, I'm sitting at dinner with you guys, and here's my fiance. So, what the character, Bill Cosby's character, Huxtable, Dr. Huxtable, he was basically saying to her was like, we're not upset with you, because the impression was that everyone was upset with or did not like the fiance or the husband to be or the spouse to be. They were, and he explained it so eloquently. He said, we're not upset with you. He said, we're taking issue with the fact of how you were presented. Sort of like a steak, right? And stay with me if you're with me, because I'm going to tie all this together real cute with clinically speaking, which is a working title, by the way. Like a steak. It's got all of the trimmings, the potatoes, the onions, the peppers, the nice gravy, the nice rich thick gravy, the mashed potatoes, and how would you like that steak presented to you? What if you presented your steak on a garbage can lid? Would you like it presented on a garbage can lid, or would you like it presented on a nice white piece of china with the fork and the napkin and the nicely woven napkin and the knife to cut it up nicely? And he said, of course, the plate. He said, well, you, my dear, my friend, was presented on a garbage can lid. So that's how I want to, what vein I'm coming from today. I want to be able to not just, because the the categorical group that I was born up under, which was African American in the human race, African American female, right? And I wasn't born, like Langston Hughes said in one of his poems, life for me was not a crystal stair, right? Hasn't been a crystal stair. It has had broken glass on it. And, the story poem. And if you don't, look it up. This right here has been presented to many in my cultural and or race as being taboo. for many, many years. And it's not just my race. But I'm speaking because I happen to know firsthand, because I have firsthand information about it. I hear what I've heard what the male folk have said, the male folk elders have said about mental health, and you know, you don't need to be going to see nobody because you're not crazy. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Just act like you got some sense, or I'm gonna beat this crazy out of you, and different things of that nature. So I've heard the different rules and different taboos of what it's like to be um, living in a household from where mental health, whether we were born with it, whatever your belief is, whether you were born with it, it's an organic disorder, right? Whether it would be from environment or experience, right? We were told that we should not, succumb to that, and we need to just get it together, or whatever the phraseology was, get it together. And how can you get it together when it's not, has no, when it's out of your control? And in doing so, some years ago, many, many years ago, as recent as late as the 1800s, and I'm willing to bet that mental health disorders, behavioral disorders, um, emotional disorders have been around even before we were talking about it. That's what I believe. I believe it. I read some stories in the Bible that about Noah. Noah was a fallen down drunk. He was a drunkard. You know, today, today, if Noah was assessed, right, given an assessment, I wonder if Noah was a candidate for alcoholism. Hmm. Let's talk about Cain and Abel, right? The one who succumbed to jealousy and envy. Now, from a regular standpoint, jealousy, envy, frustration, those are all anger, right? Right? Just like those are all emotions that are natural human emotions, right? But when you succumb to those emotions and you kill your brother, you're driven by a rage that allows you, that dictates your behavior, and you get out of yourself, out of sorts, so to speak, and you take a life, and you're carrying that for so long. I'm wondering if Cain or Abel, right? If Cain would have had the opportunity to sit with someone and talk about these emotions, would he have killed his brother? What would that diagnosis look like? Right? What would be the plan of action? So this is not anything new. And so when this was presented to me, the option to go back to school, the opportunity rather, not the option, the opportunity to go back to school. And because I've always been a school girl, I talked about that, always wanted to go to school, just was wondering what would that look like? What would my degree look like? What would I want to work on? What would I want to be a part of? I have my family life coming up in my school age years, formative school age years was not a pretty sight. We lived in low income housing, right? Um, we lived A, B, C, D, E, F. We lived 6 apartments, 12 floors. That right there created, right, a mental health issue. All of those people living in such close proximity to each other. I'm just wondering if it's some trauma, some mental health disorder, emotional even, right? which would lend itself to behavioral, right? What would that look like? What does that look like to live under those conditions? So much so to the point where it became the norm. And then when you took me out of that environment, because there was a period where I had the opportunity to go and live with family members who did not live under those conditions, who had a front yard and a backyard, who had green grass, and how my behavior was totally different. It was totally different from that, which what I had grew up under, and so I got the first hand opportunity to see this live and in action, right? So when I had the opportunity to go back to school, I already knew what I wanted to do. I just wanted to know what vein I wanted to work at. And this was what I chose. Why did I choose marriage and family counseling therapy? Because I did not want to just look at individuals. I'm interested in how people work in connection with society, in connection with others, in relationships. I'm interested in that because the bottom line is, I think Bob Marley said it, no man is an island. We have to be here with each other. We have to learn. We don't have to, but it really would be to our betterment if we learn to work with one another. And not just learn to work with one another, if all of us aren't on the same accord, for those we don't understand, learn how to even get an opportunity to understand. And not look at those who are think differently and behave differently as the derelicts or the dregs or the bastards of society. So I went back to school, and I want to take this format right here, this forum, and I want to present it in a way that it's palatable to those who find it distasteful or who have disdain for it. Does that make sense? So with that being said, DSM-5, and I want to, once again, anything that you hear on this segment going forward, because this right here is the precursor to this second week of the month, every month, right? 10 weeks we'll address. We won't do this every week, but every second week of the month, you can count on me to come with something. You have an opportunity to, I don't know, give input as to what you want to talk about, right? T underscore. No, I'm sorry. G underscore spot 829 at yahoo.com. Email. Go in there and tell me what it is you want to hear, right? Come back every second Sunday of the month and let's chop it up. You don't have to listen. I want to say this. Anything that you hear here, anything that you learn here, anything that we discuss via any factors or any symptoms or any, if you feel you are experiencing these symptoms, do not diagnose yourself. Seek out the help of a licensed professional who can help you, to assess you, to guide you through your process into this mental health journey. Do not be ashamed to say there possibly might be something going on. How I'm treating my child, how I'm treating my husband, how I'm treating my wife, how I'm treating my mother, how I'm treating my dog, how I'm treating myself. If it's not working for you, never mind what society says, right? Society will say you're supposed to be this, and this based on their ruler, right? I'm going to get a little graphic here. Let's say you're a booger eater. Yes, I'm going there. Let's say you eat boogers. Younger children, it's a well known fact that children who are of a certain age experiment. They eat paint, they eat glue, they eat boogers. They because they're exploring, they're trying to figure out, right? They're playing around with all of their senses to see what is and what is not acceptable. Now, society says at a certain age, you should not be a grown ass man. Excuse my French. You should not be a grown A double snakes man. I said it already, didn't I? I said it already. I said, excuse me, and then I tried to clean it up. But no, society says you should not be a grown man sitting up somewhere eating boogers. But let's say you like eating boogers, your boogers. I'm not saying other people's boogers. Let's say you like the taste of your boogers. And I mean, hey, if it's not hurting you or anyone else, what is the problem? Now, let's broaden the context because that's what happens here. This is what we do, broadening the context. Let's broaden the context. Let's say you're eating boogers in a restaurant, right? And the woman at the next table vomits, right? Because she has not been exposed to that in her home, in her life, in her environment where she grew up. Matter of fact, it probably was frowned upon in the household and she was discouraged from doing so, right? And she vomits, and the person at the next table sees the woman vomit, does not see you eat. They don't know why they didn't see you eating your boogers that triggered her to vomit, but they see her vomit, and her vomiting has an adverse reaction on them because they don't have that gag reflex to vomit. So that upsets them. That clears out the restaurant, thereby affecting that restaurant's ability to bring in customers because everyone will talk about that day when that woman vomited, but they didn't see the booger eater, which was you. Now we're talking about a chain reaction and people being affected by said behavior. We live in a society that is so frail and so fragile. That's because people coming together from different trajectories, different environments, different upbringings, different cultural beliefs, coming together at one nexus at one point could create something. It creates a measuring stick as to how people should conduct themselves. There should be a fork and a knife. You should not be sitting there with your fingers eating your food, unless it's finger food. Why is that? Why has that mainstream thinking, mainline thinking, why is this a baseline for how we should, why is that a baseline as to how we should perform in public? Why? That's a teachable moment. And I'm open, and this is the stuff that we want to talk about. We want to bring the most basic stuff to the table and talk about what it is that impacts and affects us. What are your thoughts, guys? Once again, T, I keep saying T. It's not T. It's G underscore spot 829 at yahoo.com. Go into the email, leave some messages, leave some topics that you'd like to talk about for weeks going ahead. Let's talk about this. That was one. Now, I want to go back to the booger eater. Yes, there's so many different ways that we could talk about this, so many different directions we could go with this in. Let's say that you're doing this behavior, you're eating boogers for a number of years. Matter of fact, from the time that you started, you never stopped. And now you want to stop because you have evolved to a place where you've seen where your behavior just either one is not acceptable in society, two is not acceptable to you, three, you just flat out grown out of it, right? Now you have a habit of eating boogers. Yes, all of this stuff. No, the booger part is not in here, but the behavior, the mentality, how it affects you emotionally. When you come to the realization that there's a change that has to happen, and the change starts with you. All of that's here. It comes from theory. We talk about behaviors and how to change them. Now you have a habit of eating boogers. How does this change? How do you stop something that you have been doing for years that's become ingrained in your personality, in your emotional DNA, in your behavioral? How do you stop it? I tell you, well, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you guys are asking, because what happens is we start with a licensed professional, right? You seek out a licensed professional who you strike a chord with, right? And then you start with introducing your problem. It's called an intake visit. You meet, let's say you meet me, and you walk into my office and you say, okay, I like you. I feel like I'm jobbing with her. She got a jazzy little office, got a little plant back there, got a little Afro girl up there in the little yoga position. I'm feeling her, feeling her. I like what she had to say on her little podcast, right? I was feeling her. Yeah, I heard what she said about boogers, and I eat boogers. So I feel like she would take what I have to say about my condition, and she won't laugh at me. I won't feel embarrassed. I won't be ridiculed. I won't be talked down to. I won't be told that I should have been stopped doing that a long time ago. Right? Because that's all people, what I'm finding in my travels, even without a professional, a DSM-5, even without going to school, all that I found out that all people ever wanted to do was be heard. They want to tell their story unfiltered. And there is a theory that was worked on. It's called narrative. And that's where we use part of that to allow you to just tell your story. What do you want me to know about you? So when we first meet, you get to do that. We get to talk about when it started. What was the onset? When everybody else stopped at 9, 10, or 11, or 7 or 8 or 5 or 6, whatever the age is in your cultural or your belief or your race or whatever the age or the onset, why didn't you stop? No answer is a wrong answer. I didn't stop because they tasted good. I didn't stop because I couldn't stop. I didn't stop because when I got nervous, that's immediately what I turned to. All of that ties to something. Or if I didn't stop just because I just didn't want to stop. Whatever, no answer is a wrong answer. And at that first meeting, that's what we do. We talk about that. We figure out what it is your dilemma is. Now, you want to stop. The famous question that I ask is why now? No answer is a wrong answer to that either. I just want to stop. I looked up one day and I found myself sneaking in the bathroom to eat boogers while I was at work. And I don't like doing that anymore. I don't want to rob the company's time, rob the company of a good employee, of stealing time and going in the bathroom. Or I found myself using longer periods to eat boogers. Whatever your answer is, nothing is a wrong answer, and you should not be ridiculed with that. Now, in society, we do have individuals that will ridicule you, that will shame you, that will make statements that will have you feeling feelings of guilt. That will happen. But that's why we have a disclaimer in what I do, and it's called confidentiality. As long as you're not talking about hurting someone or yourself. And when we talk about hurting, we're talking about maiming, taking a life, threatening to a degree where there is a belief on my part that you would maim or take someone's life. Whatever you say, I have to hold confidentially. Pretty hot stuff, right? So your booger eating is safe with me. The woes and troubles that your boogers are causing you or preventing you from living a fruitful life stay safe with me. Did you know that? So after we have that first meeting and you find out that you feeling me, guess what? When you come back for that second visit, usually around about the second visit. The first visit is all inclusive of this, but we start planning how we're going to attack your problem. Yes, because every problem, just like it started and it built up to be the massive mountain in your life that it is, a plan of action has to present itself in how to attack it and cut it down. So with that, we have a treatment plan. Yes. And yes, these are my tools of the trade. So I have a complete adult psychotherapy treatment planner. And this Arthur E. Longsmith Jr. series, John Smith and Mark Peterson. And this is, listen, I do what I do. And I like to think that I'm good at what I do. And I'm good at what I do because I adhere to things like this and this. And as you can see, I got my dog markings in there. And this right here, I also have, when I'm working with children, I have a child psychotherapy treatment planner. And as you can see, there's stickies all through it because I'm good at what I do because I work at what I do. So we start that. We get a treatment plan going. And we start meeting and we start talking and we start delving. Some of our theories that we're going to work with is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, how our cognitions translate to the behaviors. Narrative, you get to tell your story. Bowenian, we get a tree. We could even we may even get a family tree going because believe it or not, a genealogram, right? And we get to delve into the annals of your family. And believe it or not, what happens is you may find out that you may have a great grandfather that was a booger eater. It may be genetics. We explore, right? And we look and we present something and we work on a plan that may be palatable for you to attack this problem. And believe it or not, you may take 2 steps forward and 5 steps back before you get to your goal. But if you believe that you can get there by this way of mental health, don't stop. I've worked with a lot of people who have stopped because they gotten hopeless. Look how long you have been doing what you've been doing that have caused this emotional decay, this psychological rot that put you into this behavioral rut. And you cannot come to me and think that this is going to end in 6 to 8 weeks. It's going to take time. It's going to take diligence. It's going to take vigilance on your part. You're going to have to roll your sleeves up. You're going to have to hike your pants up. You may have to get dirty. And there are going to be some days you'll be leaving my office crying. There'll be some days you'll be leaving my office cursing me out, saying you're not going to come back. And then only for you to show up the next week. But I promise you, each layer that you pull off presents itself an opportunity to heal that much better. The reason I can say this so confidently and so boldly, right, is because I know what it's like to sit in the very chair that either you sat in and gave up on or potentially will sit in. Or the one that's waiting for you that you've never sat in. I know what it's like. I've given up many times. And then I came back. And this is, I must say, it's rewarding. And there's also joy in the journey. But every journey must start with a first step. So if there's something out there that's plaguing you that you want to deal with, go to G_spot829@yahoo.com. Put it in the email and let's talk about it. Every second week of the month, come back here. Let's talk about it. Let's deal with the constructs of what is that ails you. Once again, this is not a therapy session. This is merely just to gather information and have a nexus point for me to present something to help you shift your perspective. Why am I sweating so hard? So that's what I wanted to present to you guys today. I'm glad I was able to get to this. I'm glad I was able to get to this. Mental health is real, right? It mental effective, the effective communication is important. Vigilance and due diligence is vital, right? And I'm here. So I just want to present it in a way that is palatable to those who are naysayers, who don't believe, who rather not deal with it, who rather not even talk about it. And if you're in a rut, the first step in any journey is acknowledging that there is a rut and that you're in it. What say you? So the chat is open. I pre-recorded this. I recorded this without any audience because it was so important that I lay a firm foundation for what it is I'm trying to do here. No, I don't want to treat anyone on YouTube. No, I just want to present the information in a manner that's palatable I want to reach that group that says this is nonsense, this is bullshit, I don't want to hear it. Because 9 times out of 10, if it's not you, it's somebody that you know that could benefit. And if they can benefit every second week of the month, you may hear something. And if you hear something, seek out a licensed, board certified, board certified, licensed professional who can help you with your dilemma. And with that, I'm going to log off. I hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoy presenting it.